Call this meeting to order. Meeting notice has been provided. Roll call vote.
Mr. Laczynski.
Here.
Ms. Van Aken.
Present.
Ms. Schaffner.
Here.
Ms. Strablo.
Here.
Mr. Castillo.
Here.
Ms. Zemer.
Here.
Mr. Schneider.
Here. Sam, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I guess we want the date, don't we? Hang on. I make a motion to approve the minutes for February 16th, regular meeting, closed session, February 23rd, the legislative meetings, and the closed session on February 23rd.
Second. Motions are made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Next, we have Woodside Elementary School. This looks interesting.
Hi, good evening, everyone. You know me, I'm Melissa Horn, principal at Woodside. Before I let everybody introduce themselves, we just wanted to put a little forewarning out there. Today at Woodside, for Read Across America, it was Silly Tuesday. So some of us had some time to go home and change, some of us did not. So we just decided that we would just stay in character all day, even for the board meeting. So this is not how we would normally dress for a board meeting, but it was our celebration today. So I'm Anna Hatfield. I'm a literacy coach at Woodside.
I'm Jake Snelly. I'm the math and science coach.
Okay.
Go back.
Oh, I have to click on it. Sorry. So we just wanted to come and talk to you tonight, just for a little bit about some questions that have come up about our scores and staff satisfaction survey, and really like how is it happening? What's happening at Woodside? What are the great things? So we wanted to share some of the great things that we're working on doing. So we've really been focused on engagement and discourse at Woodside, and our goal has really been to look at student engagement and active student engagement, and then turn that into meaningful discourse. So really a little bit of background on that, and what happened is that in the fall, it turned out is that math was one of our goals, was discourse. Students talking, sharing information back and forth. And when we started talking about that and started working on that, it evolved into, it really goes across all levels and all grade levels and all subject areas. So what we did is we transformed that into what we are at Woodside calling our student discourse and engagement mountain. And so you can see that at the bottom of this mountain, we need that student engagement. And these are all things that we're talking about. We're talking about whole body listening. We're talking about calling responses, student teacher proximity. You have to have these things in order to accomplish that student discourse. So what we did is we started and we had students set goals around, or sorry, not students, teachers set goals around this mountain back in the fall. So back in November, they each set individual goals. And then I went in and gave targeted feedback around this area. So it was specific to each individual teacher. They were getting specific feedback and they could see hey, what do we need to work on? We were working together, and then coaches could dive in if they wanted more individual or they wanted more coaching around a certain area. So then when we did that, we are actually in our second mountain. So we reflected on that, looked at that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, so we have been working for years, obviously, on building oral language with students at elementary. It is the foundation of all literacy. It needs to increase vocabulary and comprehension, which is obviously our goal. So we work on that all the time in literacy, but as Melissa mentioned, we're really working to expand that into all areas across the school day for our students. So if you look at the oral language development essentials, these are the kinds of things that we want to be happening. So students are doing the talking and the thinking. Obviously, the teacher is too, but we want the students to be very engaged and really participating with their language. We want them to be asking and answering questions, not just answering, but really asking. So asking the teacher and asking each other and learning from each other and the other students in their classrooms. Other components would be having discussions about anything, the math concept, about the science or the social studies, not just the literacy. Certainly could be literacy. We do that a lot, talking about what do you think the theme is, or why do you think the character did that in the story. It could be writing, and then they talk about their writing and their responses to the things that they're learning about. The biggest thing too is that they're involved in meaningful activities that require a heavy cognitive load. So a lot of that, and analyzing and really thinking deeply about things. A lot less of that sit and get model, and more of them being active participants in that discussion and that learning. So what does this look like? Again, if you come to Woodside, these are the kinds of things we're really working hard for you to see all of the time you come into the classroom, no matter what time of day it is. So there's going to be obviously the teacher's role, because the teacher is still essential in this and in this discourse goal that we're having at Woodside. But then there's also really active student roles as well. So you're going to see things from the teacher, such as praising talking points, saying, hey, yeah, I really, that's a really good point. Say that again, restating what they said, making connections to what other students said, extending on the ideas and building on that student thinking. So you're going to hear things like, well, who can add on to what he or she is saying? How are their ideas different? Those kinds of things from the teacher. So really kind of, we call it controlling the narrative. They're going to make sure that what's being discussed and talked about are those learning targets, and making sure they're really covering those points that they're trying to teach that day. Students, though, again, are going to be building on each other, on their ideas. They're going to be asking each other questions. Tell me more about that, or why did you try it this way? All those kinds of things. I agree with this, or I disagree because I would do it this way. That's the kind of language you're going to hear from students. That what we're working on. Think about our mountain goal. And that's going to really lead to that active engagement, because in order to do all those things and have that discourse, they have to be actively engaged. They have to be listening to each other, not just the teacher, but to each other, and thinking deeply about what they're hearing and learning.
Okay, so to reiterate, we are trying to ensure that students at the youngest level at all of the district are working towards this discourse goal. This is something, obviously, we think about high schoolers. They debate, they have critical conversations, they analyze concepts. But what does this look like at the elementary level? And even at Woodside, we've done a really specific job of helping teachers see that what discourse looks like in kindergarten is largely different than it looks in fourth grade, but they are the foundation of building that, so that fourth grade can see, I know what it looks like at that lowest level, and kindergarten can see, I know what's expected and whatever I need to get my kids. And we also are trying to push away from the show and tell in regards to math, and more of the share and compare, because we know what's most impactful for kids in their learning is being able to talk about their work, show their work, write about their work, and reflect about their work, and not just see work, take it in, and then like drill. So the next part is kind of like our process in general of all of this and how it all came in together. So we started off in the fall with professional development regarding just discourse in general, and Melissa kind of alluded to the fact that teachers set goals, and then we kind of dug into some resources that the Acts 20 training also provided us. So that kind of crossed some of the math and the ELA concepts together. So teachers had an opportunity to dig in some of sentence stems, teacher call and response, or teacher moves that they could use. And then they went and tried it, put it into action, using those steps, making and using their own resources, tapping onto me and Anne of like, hey, I really want to work on how I can get my kids to build on in the conversation, and I need you to either observe me or watch me or help me and support me in getting my students to do this end goal. Then we had, I know it says reflection at the end, but we reflected, teachers kind of thought about where they're at in regards to their goal. And then we did a little bit of professional engagement or development around the area of engagement. And you'll see this kind of like graphic come later at the end. But we then, with our school psychologist and school counselor, talked a little bit about how do we get our kids to see what engagement looks like and recognize if they are not being engaged into their learning. So we'll tap into that in just a moment when you see this graphic. And then again, teachers just recently did a lot of reflecting and checking in on their goal, and maybe even changing it depending on if they feel like they've met it, what they want to do next when they think of discourse in the class. classroom. So then I'll go to Melissa.
And then two, I just want to go back 1 second because right, we're always asking like, how do we know we're making progress? How do we know this is working? So we did put together a document that just shows like where we were in December and looking at we did a rubric just like the students would have a rubric and looking at beginning, developing, proficient, and excelling, and where we were at the beginning of December and fall, like our teachers where they were with discourse and engagement. Looking at the feedback that I had given and looking at their goals, we were about 84%. We were just beginning. We were just at the beginning stages of trying to figure that out and trying to use that in the classroom. And am I seeing this in the classroom? Am I not seeing this in the classroom? We had about 16% that were developing, but then we did it again after we reflected and we looked in February, I would say the end of February, and all of those numbers shifted. We were at 37% beginning. We still have like just a couple teachers that are still like we're working out. 21% developing, but then we had 42% that are proficient. Like they're in their classroom, they're using it, they're doing it, and we're actually modeling. And you're going to see like a video of some students that are students and teachers that are actually doing it really well in their classrooms. So we know that this is something that is going and it's working, and we're happy with where that is. So Jake said about the engagement. So this is we just did this probably two weeks ago, maybe. Just this disengagement versus engagement. We shared this with staff, we talked in grade levels. What does this look like in your classroom? And they listed out like, okay, disrupting, what does that look like in your classroom? Avoiding, what does that look like? Pretending. And then what we did is we had a second grade team that just took this actually in the staff meeting, made slides immediately and implemented it like that morning in their classroom. And when you go into their classrooms now, they're talking about, you see it on their board. They're talking, their students are like, I'm feeling like one of them actually said, I just kind of pretend like I'm learning, but I'm really not. And she knew that about herself. And one of the students, she knows that what's going to help her. So then they look at strategies, what's going to help her. So, or any student. And she was like, I really need this rocking chair. So she was rocking the rocking chair, and another student came up to her and said, well, what's going on? Like, why are you, why do you get a rocking chair? And she's like, well, because I sometimes pretend like I'm learning, but this really helps me focus and not learning. So they're using the language, they're using this, and it's coming up a lot more, and more grade levels are kind of using that within their classroom just for their students to be able to self-assess. So it's a great way for them to know where they are. So
in the videos that you're going to see, they're quick. There are two different teachers that are working on discourse. The second grade teacher will start off, and then I'll tell you a little bit about it. I just got to skip ahead. Okay, we'll watch, and then I'll. So there are a couple of things in this video that happened that you may have seen or didn't, but one of the things that this teacher was working on was obviously getting students to compare their strategies and verbalize it. You could see she clearly has an idea of where she wants the conversation to go. when she asked the student to compare, she was on the right track, but you could also see she said maybe not the correct thing. So this teacher had another student add on, and that student added on and kind of finished with the correct way. And it just goes. And then at the end, the teacher again kind of reiterated everything, putting it back what the kids said into their own words. And those are a lot of the push is to get them to do that hard thinking and to compare, to analyze, and to agree, disagree. And then how does the teacher control that? And when it goes kind of haywire, how do we bring it back? So that was the second grade version. And now Anne did a little bit more with ELA with a kindergarten class, and then we'll talk about that at the end.
Okay, so again, you saw a lot of strategies and teacher moves. Obviously, she had set them up to be used to talking to each other, turn and talk. They even had partners. They got up and moved and then quickly moved back at the 3-2-1. So there's a lot of that preparation that goes into allowing students, even our 5 and 6-year-olds, to be able to successfully have discourse. She obviously had things that she was asking and working on, but what do you notice, what do you wonder, are things that she kind of consistently uses throughout her day, depending on the subject area. It doesn't matter, she uses those stems for the students. Again, as soon as they started working, what did she do? She went right to the students, right? And she was listening and she was prompting them and saying, hey, yeah, I want you to raise your hand. Let's hear do that. Like she was encouraging the actions she wanted and making sure that the points that she wanted to get across in that lesson and those learning targets were coming through. And she knew which kids to call on because she knew who was going to say, oh, yeah, they all in an O. Oh, yeah, they all rhyme. She could have done that herself, right? She could have stood up there and delivered all of that content to the kids. But that would look very different, especially for our 5 and 6-year-olds than what you just saw with that active engagement and discourse. Again, it takes work from the teacher. It's not that the teacher is out of it, right? She did a lot of work setting that up and was really what we call controlling the narrative throughout the whole lesson and ensuring that those learning targets were covered.
So we just wanted to take a little time just to show you kind of like what's going on at Woodside, the things that are going on. We are really excited about it. We're seeing the growth, we're seeing the numbers. So that's kind of just a little peek at Woodside. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I always have a couple. First of all, please know my second grader at Woodside, the Notice and Wonder, and it's come home for years. I don't know where it started, but it's come home for years, and I love it. The discourse, I will tell you this, as Finley and I read stories all the time, just the other day, she said, Mom, I disagree with you because. So like it comes home in all facets of life. Two questions. How do introverts get included in this? Because there's a degree of loud versus quiet. Like what are the techniques the teachers use?
And I noticed in the second grade video that the teacher was just calling the kids with their hands up. So that kind of left out. And I know it's just one video we saw, left out the people who don't like to raise them.
The things too, I think like in the kindergarten example would be Courtney very strategically looks for students, but I think she also is encouraging kids who are usually shy and who would normally raise their hand, and she's saying, hey, you got this. That's the right, like, I want you to say that. So I think a lot of that teacher encouragement for those students who are a little more reluctant goes a long way. And suddenly they start to raise their hand once and get that feedback, and someone says, I agree with you, and I noticed that too. And it gives them that feedback and that confidence to continue doing that a little bit more and draw them out of their shell a little bit. Also, those techniques of like just turn and talk with a partner. It's much safer than everybody talk to the whole group or get up in front of the class and come up to the board. So building in some of those other engagement techniques really help offset, I think, some of that, shyness and reluctance to speak for some of those things.
One of the biggest push for discourse in this regard is we do want all kids' voices to be heard. And a lot of times when it is just call and response, you are really hearing from just a couple people, a lot of times the same people. We talked a lot this year about we're getting student work up and having conversations about it. How are we getting everyone to speak? And one of the things that we've been doing, because there are kids that will have it right, and you'll say, can you go put up on the board? And I'll put up on the board. And then we'll say, can you share it? No, like they don't. That's not. But we have to think about what is like sharing your voice look like. Is it verbally sharing your voice? Is it sharing your work? And maybe you need support, like explaining it. Could you explain maybe one of the steps and I'll do the rest? Do you want to sit there? I feel like teachers have been largely flexible. Our goal is to get kids to feel confident and say, hey, you did this right. You worked on this with me. Now go show everybody. That's like the end goal, but it's going to take the work to get there. But I think that everyone's got a good step of it might be a slow process for some, but our ultimate goal is to be confident that your work is up there and then speak to it and defend it.
Okay, and then last one. The chart with the little girl who's not sure I'm not learning versus engaged. No feedback needed, but I just wanted to share. I was just listening to a podcast that talked about the Pomodoro effect. New to me, it said that we can be truly engaged for 25 minutes and then we should take a 5-minute break. I just say, not as an educator, but as someone, like, as we think about what we're setting up little humans to be adults, like, I don't love the idea of being engaged at your highest all day. I think that's exhausting. Not saying you're doing that at all. This was just a moment in my life that is coming to put like connecting here. And I like to make shameless plugs for more movement breaks. So just putting that out there.
All right, anyone else?
Yep, just wanted to say thanks for sharing, and I think providing the videos, because it's nice to actually see what goes on in the classroom, because we sit here behind this table, we don't always get to see. You guys are the ones that are there doing it, so it's nice to see some of this stuff in action, and thanks for the teachers to be videoed, to be doing that, because I know that can probably feel awkward. And then display for later, so thank you.
Courtney, honestly, this wasn't something we had like pre-established. I had just gone into a room for something else and I saw it, and then I said, hey, could I come in another time and capture this, because you did that so beautifully and I'd love to be able to share it. So she was very willing, but again, that takes a lot for a teacher to be comfortable to be recorded. So we appreciate that too from them.
Thank you.
Okay,
Nice.
thank you.
Citizen comments, I didn't get any. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second
Second.
that.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any further discussion or questions from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Milky, update regarding district event.
All right, going to start with legislative update. Talked a little bit about where the budget was. We don't have much change. Do you know that they are still negotiating? Do you anticipate them coming back into session at some point this spring? The last the legislators put out was a 200 million for special education, a categorical aid that would get it closer to that 42-45% that was planned on. And in school tax levy credits, that is property tax relief. That money would not come into the schools, and then tax rebate. So that's where they were at. And the governor had some different ideas. They're going back and forth. Also, this is new. There was a lawsuit challenging public school funding. There's a handful of school districts involved, along with some individual teachers, families, students, teacher unions, some other groups as well. So we'll be following that to see if anything happens with that. District updates. Hamilton students chosen for national merit finalists. Very challenging to make it to that group. So the fact that these students made it is compliments to them and to their staff as well. They have to do an essay and our SAT scores to qualify for that in the upper 1%. Dumpton student wins the first in the state for Patriots Pen. I believe that's the first time we've ever had a first place in the state for that. So congratulations to them. And that was about patriotism, perspectives on patriotism. So congratulations. And then March is Youth Art Month. It was at the library. If you get a chance to go, please do check that out. Got there at the beginning. It was already starting to fill up. A lot of very popular for our students and for our parents to go see that. So make sure that you are checking that out. Some amazing work that's going on there for all age ranges. And then school board election updates. Spring election is Tuesday, April 7th. At large seat, we have two candidates moved on from the primary election. Cassie Hayden and Tom Seiler, both out in the crowd today. Village of Lanning, Jay Jones, and then Village of Sussex, Adam Garrett and Ashley Schaffner will be on the ballot April 7th. And then just want to give you a little update. We started doing some strategic plan review. Some of the three of the board members were able to make for all or partial of our meeting today, and wanted to just share some information that we had. We looked at some data, did put those sheets in front of you. Overall scores, test results, staff and student parent survey data, a lot of different things that we took a look at. As we talked to the group, this isn't all the things we're going to use, but just one step as we try to put the puzzle piece together for our next strategic plan, which will be this spring. Did notice that a growth in a lot of areas, academic growth, intervention data, our state report card, name a few, but lots to celebrate on that card. And a couple areas identified for improvement. A lot of it really had to do with alignment, some safety improvements, for example, like more cameras, door access, things like that. Popped door access people are looking for, and some other ones. We have safety committee already actively working on all of those. And then where do we need to go? Identified some potential next areas, and a lot of it is about consistency and alignment. Had some really great conversations. So we did have 3 board members that were able to attend partial or whole. So Ms. Van Ackenon, if you wanted to, how you think the process went today?
It was very interesting being there. You get to really see how the administrators were thinking, and they have some very deep discussions. And one thing that we were talking about a little bit before is that we get all these wonderful board reports and we hear the things, but there's only so much time you have and so much information you can give us. And part of the discussion today, we could see beyond in more depth than what we are getting from the board reports. Not that you're not doing a good job in that, but you've got 3, 4, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and there's a lot of information to share. And that and it's some of those smaller things that just don't fit into the board reports when you're giving them to us that we're able to see and the impact that those things have. So,
Mr. Castillo.
Yes, I would just say that I'm very thankful and appreciative to be a part of the group today. It's just an eye-opener for me just to see, like sitting in the groups and the discussions and just how in-depth they are. And just to see and hear what they're going through, because I can't always be in the building. I don't know what's going on in admin. And it just helps me to give me a perspective of, what you guys are going through, what you're dealing with, what's your hot button issues, and it helps me to make decisions, and then also ways that we can look to improve as a board to give you the support and what you need for the district to grow. And then lastly, just I enjoyed, the camaraderie that's amongst, the staff and just to see how everybody talks to each other, laugh and, just the open discussion that they have. And I think that shows in the results of our sports and how they have improved and jumped dramatically. And, just, thankful to be there.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, so we spent the first half of the morning talking about academic scores, and survey results and improvements, or areas of improvement, that we have accomplished over the last 4 years. And then the second half of the meeting, which was interesting, was that we talked about the teacher opportunity gap book, and the 12 things that came out of there and how we're recruiting teachers and staff, how we're retaining them, what does their training look like, things of that nature and ongoing. And it was interesting because I was in a group with an elementary school principal, a 5-6 or SSI principal, and then a high school assistant principal. And so it was interesting to get a scope of how things are similar or how things are different, based on their lens. And then I'd say also, we spend a lot of time talking about not overloading our teachers and our staff. It really brought attention to me of, we also need to be conscious of that with our principals as well, because they carry a lot of hats. And so something that I definitely will take into consideration, but overall really appreciated the conversations, that were had this morning.
I know the admin team was very appreciative that you were able to be there, and I think just highlighted, try to set up some more opportunities like that to invite board and during some meetings, and we'll find some times where perhaps have you pick the topics and do the different tables. I thought it was great that we had 5 different groups going, and board was able to participate with at least 3 of those with it. So thanks for making the time to do that today. I know that's challenging to do during the work day, but we appreciate that it worked out. And then upcoming events. I already talked about their work. It was Read Across America, as you saw that today by the aware of the Woodside staff. Super Connected meetings coming up March 12th. Next board meeting is March 16th, and spring election is April 7th. Be happy to take any questions if you have it.
Not per protocol, I'd like to entertain your question, but I can't. Any questions from the board? Thank you. So we started something new, book recommendations. Last week you missed the Declaration of Independence book, so this is sheer coincidence. This week's book is called Quiet by Susan Cain. It's the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking. So she is an introvert herself, and there's lots of valuable insights about how to deal with yourself if you're an introvert, as well as how to work with introverts as students or fellow workers.
Okay, that's short. What you said
Yeah.
after that was a lot longer.
Yeah, it's the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking. Okay. Ms. Van Aken, Personnel Committee.
Yes, we met earlier and it was close to a record meeting. If I could have a motion for to approve a resignation, please.
I move to approve the resignation as presented in the personnel report dated March 3rd, 2026, provided by Mr. Rubik.
Second.
We just want to point out that this person gave us a very timely resignation. It's not until the end of the school year. So we know very early that this position will be open.
Motions are made and seconded. Any further discussion? There are none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. That's it. Thank you.
That's all we had tonight.
Next, approval of recommendations regarding 2026 Summer Opportunities Program, Mr. Leland. And Ms. Schramka.
And I believe that we are already here to talk about summer school, but here we are.
Cody, want the mic?
All right, here we go. All right, guys, so, last spring we came before you guys and we had a lot of proposed changes. Had done a big audit of the program. Tonight is not that. I think a lot of the changes we put in place last year were very worthwhile. Turned out to work out very well. So tonight's kind of more of an update. We're gonna talk through some things. One big change though is that the person right beside me is Zach Welch. He is a teacher at SSI. He's joining our team this year as the 4K through first grade site administrator at Woodside. In the past, and that was Ashley Pfeiffer. Before that, I believe Liz Lonel. And so very excited. Zach's been a teacher leader at SSI for many years. And now he's kind of taking that jump and joining the team. So he said, any questions you have tonight, write to him.
Awesome. Thanks, Cody. So starting off, we'd love to share some of our big goals for summer opportunities for this summer. First off, we want to make sure we're offering course offerings that will enhance enrichment for our students, but also providing like needed academic support. We need to continue our Readers Workshop program. We're transitioning to a new model that is aligned with Act 20 changes. So part of that will involve training instructors of Readers Workshop with Readers Workshop strategies that are within the stipulations of Act 20. Another big goal of ours is to provide opportunities for literacy and math instruction for our highest need learners that are showing us they need highest levels of extra support in their learning. We also want to make sure we're offering a variety of physical and fine arts courses to promote both creativity, but also just overall wellness. And of course, we want to make sure we're closing gaps for our students at 7th and 8th grade and providing extra opportunities that would allow them to reach proficiency at the grade level. And last, we want to be able to offer 4 credit high school music classes, for example, Synergy Show Choir and our jazz band.
I should say marching band. That's my fault.
Thank you. Sorry, Cody.
Mr. Bauer is showing me a look. So.
Oh, no, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah. Our timeline, summer opportunities will run from June 22nd through July 17th, and we are proposing no school Friday, July 3rd, before the holiday weekend. And then just a couple of financial points, like last year, we're not charging course fees for our summer opportunities, and there will be no busing provided through the school district. Right now, we're looking at 1 shuttle per shore from Village Park, with a possibility of another one if we have enough students. So.
Right. So in the full list of classes was in the board report. That's in the high school, between SAS and then the classes that Zach just talked about. Those are what we're offering there. That may look different. I'll talk more about that in a minute, in the years to come. In middle school, we are offering our promotional summer school classes for kids that are showing kind of gaps in learning that need more additional learning, as well as physical activity classes, math, reading, other classes, and special interest classes. And then at the lower levels, it's more about kind of setting them up for success and exposure at the next level. Zach talked about these are kind of recommendations and proposed changes. July 3rd being a day off, moving 4K through first grade back to Woodside, and then keeping the staggered start times that we had last year. And then I'm going to pause. I asked Whitney Roth to join us for a minute. For years, I've been coming to you guys saying Act 20 is coming. We're getting ready for it. But now we kind of more of a clear plan for next year.
Status report coming your way soon, but we have right now a pilot for a program that we feel is aligned with the Act 20 guidelines that actually don't go into effect this summer, but will need to be in place next summer. So what we wanted to do is take this summer as a pilot and learning year so that when the law officially goes into effect, we have a solid science-based intensive summer reading program that we feel works and is getting good results for kids. So this summer, we are piloting that with it's called Rising Readers, and we're looking at incoming 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders for that program. So it is not Readers Workshop. It is different than a workshop format. It uses a mix of background knowledge, fluency in the form of readers theater, decodable texts, discourse, and writing about reading, and is designed specifically for summer school groups. So in addition to that program, Kathy and I are also going to CESA 6 next week to attend a planning workshop about the compliance with Act 20 and make sure that your summer program is fully compliant and in line with Act 20 requirements. So following that workshop, the status report will be coming to you, sharing more about our plans. And then we are also continue to be in touch with area directors of curriculum and instruction, talking about what their planning looks like for the summer reading programs and how people are navigating timelines, staffing, and class sizes. To be super specific, just so you're aware, in the law, the requirement is for third graders. So there's a state requirement for third graders who are not complete with their personal reading plan or have yet to meet proficiency goals by the end of third grade. That is the group that specifically needs to be targeted for the summer reading program. We're just looking at strengthening our program in general to make sure that we are meeting the needs of kids in a different way through the summer that aren't being met through the school year.
Big shout out to Whitney and Kathy. So, you know, in full transparency, I'm at TMS. I don't know the ins and outs of Act 20 yet. I'm getting there, but they put together a really good plan and they're educating all of us as we go. So, thank you guys very much for that. Want to add that we are adding one changes here to our STEM programming. Every year we get more parents saying, hey, I'd love to add more on that. So as of just recently, within the last few days, we're adding a 5th to 8th grade 3D design modeling class, taught by Carl Grunwald, who's a TMS in high school AET teacher. And we're going to utilize the 3D printers around the district in that class. Very excited about that. And then finally working with Dom and the high school team in years to come. I think we have the opportunity to add more 4-credit classes. So we'll bring that back to you guys in the fall. Good. All right. So we have any questions for Zach?
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendations for the 2026 Summer Opportunities Program as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions from the board?
I just want to say thank you for the teachers for no class on July 3rd. Thank you for the parents going back to Woodside. And a very selfish question from a curious 11-year-old: if you can have kickball for 3 sessions of summer school.
You cannot.
Okay.
There are a lot of physical activity classes you can take.
I'm just joking. Yeah.
How about that? Ooh,
Dodgeball?
Yeah.
You want to bring it back?
No,
just kidding.
Wrenches?
Basically,
but yeah, thank you. You guys have done a lot of planning. Thank you all.
so, for the third graders that are in need of more help reading.
Yep.
Is that a requirement that they have to take summer school or just a recommendation?
It will be a requirement. We cannot make families attend. That's ultimately their choice, but it is required that we offer intensive programming.
So it's required to offer.
Correct.
I'll echo what Rachel said. Thank you for bringing it back to Woodside. Talk to me a little bit about drop off this year. What did we learn by the end of last year? Are we following the same routes? I know it sounds silly, but that's what we hear often in the beginning.
The same routes as last time?
Yes. Well, I guess same routes for SSI in the high school, and then what are we doing for Woodside?
Yeah, I believe, and I can't speak for SSI, Susan, can answer that. I think mostly probably keep that the same. The high school last year, as you recall, there was construction on the cafeteria, so that kind of really changed things. I have some proposed changes in mind, but I'll bring that to you guys to get your feedback at the time. We're going to follow working with Jeff, others out there. As far as Woodside, I can't speak too much to that. I have all the diagrams, but I know that some of your Woodside parents, I think with Zach coming on board, it might make sense for us or him to meet with you guys, get, pick your brains. But we have all the diagrams we can send your way.
Okay, yeah, and happy to talk as a Woodside parent to you about drop off. And I know Melissa Horn, I'm sure would too. But yeah, thank you. This looks like a great plethora of classes, and I have 2 kids that look forward to it every summer, which is great because it continues our learning. But thank you for this.
Yes, thank you for all of your hard work. When is the sign up this year?
March 9th through April 17th.
Okay.
And last year we went through April 30th. That was way later than it had ever been. And that was great in a way, but also it presented a lot of challenges for like special ed staffing. As kids got added later, we found out oh, we need to hire and find more staff, specifically and support. So I think that may be a happy medium. We'll find out.
Anyone else? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up. Update regarding strategic plan, facilities and technology. Holly, Mr. Miller, Grove.
Thank you. So we're here just to give you a quick update on facilities and technology updates for the strategic plan. You'll have 3 of us here presenting tonight, but just wanted to show that there's 2 other people as part of the leadership team for facilities and technology that could not be with us tonight. So we had 3 overarching goals. The one was related to facilities. Second is technology. And then we did add the third, which was related to employee well-being and benefits. So Jeff is going to start us off.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the referendum progress. I don't think you guys have heard anything or heard much lately on that, but just want to kind of bring you up to speed where we're at. So there was basically 3 pieces there, right? There was a Fund 10 operating referendum or recurring referendum. There's a Fund 49 building referendum, which was the school district buildings and parking lots that we did. There's also some projects on there. So I'm just going to quickly go through this. All the projects that are complete here are shown in green or white, and then the projects in yellow are ones that we're still either bidding or they're in design phase or they're going to be done either in summer or next winter. So I won't go through them by piece. You can ask questions later if you want, but to save time. That's kind of where we're at there. And I will, just one second here. One thing I would like to kind of update you guys on is you can see what that original budget was, $3.660 million. So so far we've spent 1.2 million on those projects. Assuming that the rest of those projects would actually meet budget, which I think they'll probably come in under. I'm pretty sure they will. Probably worst case scenario is we're going to be at $825,000 under budget on that piece. Okay. Okay, good. Fund 49 capital referendum, part of the referendum once again. Building envelope work that we did. A lot of that came from Maple Avenue. A lot of soffit work, tuck pointing on brick and some white stone. Boilers this summer at the high school, chiller this winter. These are all time sensitive things. Obviously, you can't do boilers in the middle of winter. You can't do chillers in the middle of the summer for comfort things. Fire alarm at Templeton, that was done. You're going to see $23,000 and $600 was budgeted. What we ended up doing is way back when we planned for this, the plan was to replace the whole system, but when we started looking into this with some consultants and actually Johnson Controls, we figured that we could do some piecemeal of this and update components instead of the whole thing. So instead of pulling new wire, putting new devices and everything, we could do it for $23,000 and get the same thing and get us into the next 15, 20 years. So it was a cost saving measure. Replaced fire alarm system at Maple and Marcy, summer of 26. Those are actually out for bid as we speak. So we will be getting those. I actually received 1 bid, quite a bit under what we have there. Woodside fire alarm, same thing. Save a bunch of money by, doing components instead of a whole system upgrade. And the air conditioning at Willow, which was done last year, the chiller actually came in at about 230,000. The 319 comes from the building electric had to be actually upgraded too because there wasn't enough amperage there on the chiller. So that was kind of a package thing. And with that one, that Fund 49, $486,000 spent so far. Assuming that we would spend the rest of it, it would be about another 2.2 million, which I'm very certain will be under that. So, there's also $500,000 contingency money that was built into that project, which we will not spend. So worst case on that one is $1.3 million savings. So that's going to be returned to the board. Okay. In addition to that, there's just one more piece I would like to talk about, and that's the actual.
Next slide. So our progress is really a lot more than stated there, right? So we got 13%, 33%. That's assuming that
That's the money.
the remaining projects go over budget by as much as the projects that are completed were under budget.
Yeah, you're going to be on a budget.
So that the progress is really understating what we've done so far.
The progress, correct.
We've got a lot more done than that would indicate.
Yes. Yep. And the other piece of this was the actual, and I don't have a slide for this, we can come back to this, but the actual budget itself, which would be Landon Elementary School classroom addition, the cafeteria expansion, the high school, some of the internal remodeling we did last summer, Templeton's cafeteria, and Marcy and Maples parking lots. Okay, we finally got the numbers probably about 2 weeks ago. Final numbers on that project was all the project together was $1.799 million under budget. Okay, so we brought that thing under budget. We spent about $400,000 on some extra safety projects, right? Did like the Hawkins Field Drive, and some work around the back of Silver Spring and some other things for enhanced safety. So all said and done, that was 1.398 million under budget. Okay, so you put that together with the Fund 49 that I just covered, and the 825,000 for Fund 10. So all said and done, checked in. We're kind of happy to report that we're $3.623 million under budget for all this project. So we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
and last piece that he has up here is our long-term capital improvement plan, which moves from year to year. Okay, this is a 10-year kind of look on best. Ryan, you could jump in if you want, but this is just kind of our best guess to kind of earmark some of these projects going forward, so you can kind of see got that building envelope work in there, some carpet replacements, a replacement chiller at Marcy, which is actually getting done this probably in summer, early spring. And some casework at Templeton, some classroom lighting at Woodside, that's some LED lighting. We've been going through that probably for about the last 10 years, picking and working on it. And, we're down to the last school, and that would be some classrooms left at Woodside, and then we're done. So that's pretty much all I have to report so far. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
So what are those numbers at the bottom? I can't read them.
Is it?
You don't have to tell me exactly, but
What's that?
what are the numbers?
What are the totals?
Oh, totals.
Bottom, roughly speaking.
Next year was 3.899 million. Last year was 4.7, 1.62. They're all, between $2 and $3 million, kind of all the way up.
Okay.
Any questions
so far?
Yes, I do have one, or actually it's a comment. I was, if you go back to the slide for Fund 49, when I was looking at that poem, the first one, I'm like, what's envelope work? And I was guessing it was tuck pointing, but thank you for clarifying that for me.
Yeah, it could be tuck pointing, it could be windows, it could be soffits, gutters, any of that stuff. But the majority of that was really maple, and there was a lot of work that needed to be done there. We did a bunch of soffit. The whole outside of that building is wood, so it was due for painting. I think I painted twice maybe already in my 10 years. So we're actually starting to cover it with metal, and so in the future, the next person won't have to deal with it. So we just thought it was a better way to do it. So like I always kind of preach to you, we're always interested in saving money and getting the most bang for the buck, and returning that to the taxpayer. So I mean that's the goal: providing a good product and keeping buildings in good condition for the taxpayer.
You do it well. Thank you.
Now that 3 million that Jeff said that he saved before, I'm now about to spend it. So, I just have 3 very brief slides tonight. I just want to provide the board a few updates regarding the status of our infrastructure from over the summer. We've kind of been in a monitoring and tweaking phase with the new access switches that we implemented before the school year started. We've had really good success with the equipment as it's running presently. It's provided us a number of advantages in increasing our speeds between the buildings as well as all of the speeds between the access points that are in the classrooms. So more throughput for data and video to be shared, new lines to stream YouTube, whatever it may be. So that was an added advantage. Additionally, I wanted to report that we've been tweaking our new Hanwha Wave camera system and working with the county to ensure that they have access to our system in the event of an emergency. We are also kind of, if you're familiar with like the Google Street View that you can do, we're hotspotting all of our cameras throughout the district so that in the event of a crisis, someone can quickly step through a pattern to follow an individual through the school or as you're walking the building. So I have the team working on that right now alongside our SROs to make sure that that's all set up if and when it's ever needed. So infrastructure wise, we're good. The product's good. This will last us about probably 9 to 10 years before we'll have to E-rate the switches again. Dual power on all of these guys. We've worked with Jeff's team to ensure that all of those closets have backup power or connected to a power source that is working 24/7. So we never have to really truly shut down in the event of any sort of electrical situation. Secondly, earlier this year, December, I reported that we had about 34 vulnerabilities that were discovered in our the common vulnerability scoring system. As of this morning, we have patched all but 2 of the high priority CVEs. One of them we've addressed by unplugging the piece of equipment until we can replace it. And then the other one we're going to address closer to the end of the school year because it requires a few hours of downtime. So we're not going to do that one, but we are really good. I'm very proud of the team with where we're at. Working alongside Jeff's team again, we've been working on eliminating all of the old equipment that's in production. So we've been able to decommission one of the old servers. So we're now up and updated on those for the HVAC systems at a few of our buildings, so that reduced our vulnerability spread by quite a bit. And then finally, the last thing we've been really trying to be aware of is equipment pricing. The market right now is extremely volatile with artificial intelligence. A lot of these large companies are buying up memory. So we've worked with Amy's team to kind of action some of the purchasing for next year ahead of time to save the district a good chunk of change. Also to ensure that we have Chromebooks for kids come the summer prep time and then distribution time. So very aware of the pricing and then looking at long-term how we are planning our replacement cycles. So part of that chart prior, a lot of this is buildings and grounds. The IT apparatus is part of this planning. And what we've done is we've tried to plan those large purchases alongside our E-rate cycle so that we are taking advantage of every single federal dollar that we can. We're at the start of a new 5-year cycle. We'll probably start looking at projects for next year, this year. So we have some core switches that need to be replaced. They've been running for 7 or 8 years now. So time to take them out and upgrade them. So that is also part of this Fund 46 outlay that we're working on with Amy's team. So with that being said, does the board have any questions for the technology perspective?
Yeah, I do. You said that you had all but 2 of the high priority ones. How many high priority projects were there?
I'd have to look back. I believe we had 14 high
14.
priority
Okay.
items. So
And have you started on any of the other priority ones?
all of the other ones are addressed. Anything that was considered very low or moderate in risk were addressed almost immediately.
Okay.
The critical ones that take a little bit more work because of
Okay.
outages, etc.
So basically of 39, you have 2 left.
Right.
Okay.
Really only 1 because we unplugged the other one. So just 1, I guess, but 2. Yeah, you just yes. We
Somehow I
did
think I'm going to think of it as 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would just add, you can now add like CSI to your job description. Hearing the camera thing that would follow, it's wild, but I say only so I appreciate what you're doing because you are clearly thinking outside the box to keep everybody safe. So thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions. Just wanted to make a comment and just thank you for your efforts. Being able to save 3.6 million is quite an accomplishment. We appreciate that. And then also the safety aspect. You guys hit the safety, and then Ryan, looking forward ahead to the expenses that we need to cover. So appreciate all your efforts.
Okay, and then our final goal that we added this year was just to optimize district resources for employee well-being and to find a high value benefit strategy. So as you know, one of the things I was tasked with was looking at benefits. So we did do some data collection and an initial assessment of our current benefits, which we did early fall. Then we did go to the buildings and do presentations. And then after the presentations, we did do a staff survey. So that survey results came out in October and November and helped kind of drive where we were going. Then after we looked at the survey feedback, we did take that information to our RFP for benefit brokers. So we included the slides from the presentation as well as that staff survey feedback. So all of the benefit brokers that engaged in that proposal saw exactly what the district was looking for. Those proposals came back in December, and then as you know, the board was able to participate in interviews in January, and we did complete that final recommendation in January. Since January, John, myself, and Melissa in our office sat down for an onboarding meeting with R&R in February. Their next steps, as of today, the update that I have is that they have met with Anthem, who is our current healthcare provider. They're looking at plan design and getting more information on claims, just so they can do that deep analysis and see what room there might be for us to make any changes before the next school or next open enrollment. They're also looking at stop loss marketing. So they're going to send an RFP out for those bids to see if there's anything that we can improve in that area. They also propose a dental plan review. We do have 2 dental plans currently. They recommended bringing it all together. But there was also some opportunity potentially for some reduction in out-of-pocket costs for employees, which is always exciting. They will also be looking at our short-term and long-term disability plans to see if there's any room for improvement on those. And then they're working heavily on that employee education plan. So how are we going to roll out all of this information to our employees and make sure that they understand all the changes and what might be coming forward?
Now question. Any questions for board? This is not a voting item, so.
Just one quick comment. It's clear from all the information that you 3 presented, it represents a lot of work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Nice work. Next update, strategic plan for learning and assessment. Strago, what's wrong?
And principal.
All right, we'll give our update on learning and assessment, and we bring up this strategic plan portion of the core work quite often through achievement gap reports, curriculum updates. So the board is very familiar with our focus over the past 3 years on learning and assessment. And we've shared this slide many, many times with you as well. 2017 to 2023, we really focused on teacher clarity when it came to learning and assessment and kind of getting on the same page with standards, common assessment practices, how we evaluate students, things like that. The last 3 years, we're continuing teacher clarity, but really trying to focus more on that student clarity and family clarity component. So each year, we take 1 or 2 goals that we really want to focus on that are smaller portions that help us get at that greater goal of using standards of assessment to inform rigorous instructional practices and provide meaningful feedback to students, staff, and families.
So 3 years ago, we started our learning assessment tactic by focusing on learning targets. And we decided to start there to get to our overall goal because
of the research that shows that when students know what they're supposed to be learning, they're 3 times more likely to learn it. So if we're really clear, if our teachers are clear what the goal is, students are clear what the goal is, the likelihood that they're going to learn it increases. So our first round of walkthroughs, we went into classrooms, the principals went into classrooms, just looked at some really basic things. Is there a learning target that is posted and written in student-friendly language so kids can understand what they are supposed to be learning and how they'll know when they've learned it? Is it linked to the current learning task, and is it communicated to students throughout the lesson? And in just that school year alone, we made some huge gains from fall to spring. Spring, we got into less classrooms as an admin team, but percentage-wise jumped higher. And so we found that there were learning targets written in student-friendly language. They were linked to the learning task and communicated throughout more frequently in the spring than in the fall of just that one school year. And that was due to a lot of staff learning, principal, staff meetings, and instructional coaching.
So last year, we did not collect additional information on learning target walkthroughs by getting into classrooms. This year, we wanted to come back to it though and see, like, are we still maintaining that? So where are we today? Our learning targets are consistently posted and referenced in classrooms for a majority of the time, and teacher and student clarity are higher because of it. We, as a team, collectively got into 159 classrooms this past winter and spring. We said learning targets were explicitly posted 81% of the time in those 159 walkthroughs. And when a learning target was posted, students are accurately able to articulate their learning 80.6% of the time. That's going all the way down to 4K up to high school, which was pretty cool to see. We also, for the first time, gave a student clarity survey to our 5th through 12th grade students. We've talked about, we go into classrooms, we ask kids what they're learning, but we realized 5th through 12th graders can tell us pretty clearly how they're feeling about it. So these are some key ones connected to our student clarity and learning targets. And you can see some pretty high percentages from our students around how rubrics are used in class. I know what I'm expected to do, how they're used across teachers. Do we have similar experiences as kids? So it's not changing from one teacher to the next. They can answer the questions. What am I learning? Why am I learning it? How will I know when I learned what is expected? Their feedback is connected to the learning targets. So we were really excited to see this. We had 1,681 kids take the survey. So it's a pretty large group of kids to give us this feedback. We also looked at comments that kids made, and then we looked at the percentages of it. 72% of kids say the rubric is the primary tool for clarity for them, which is pretty cool to hear. 45% emphasize, but that paired with feedback and comments really helps us. And then 28% added that if you give me an exemplar or models, that helps me even more. And 15% said they're still confused. So we still have work to do, but there was a little bit of that as well. And we also looked at survey data of 3 years from our Learning and Assessment Strategic Plan Clarity Survey for staff and family. These 2 questions in particular are about those learning targets, knowing the priority standards. And that second question for staff, my team and I consistently agree on the language for learning targets to be posted throughout a unit, went from 56% in our first year to 74%. So we know there's more consistency happening, more clarity for our teachers around that. And families, that second question, my child understands their learning goals, matches is parallel with a 75% rate and also has gone up.
Okay, so the next year then, 2024, we had a 2-year goal. And that is because we wanted to have 2 years to focus on using our PLTs, to focus on student work. Now that we know our priority standards, are we teaching them? How are we monitoring them? And how are we communicating that to families? In 2023, we had a system of multi-tiered system of support that was really inconsistent and unclear. I'm going to start from the bottom. We didn't have strong PLCs where teachers were looking at student work, talking about data and planning for support in the form of interventions. PLCs were just barely starting. We were not closing gaps at a very high rate. Our tier 2 interventions were usually program-based. They were purchased. They were delivered by interventionists. So we had a lot of interventionists at the time. And our tier 3 criteria was really inconsistent. It varied building to building. And we also didn't have high quality tier 3 resources that were equitable across our schools. Our first goal then was to meet in our PLTs, have teacher teams meet in PLTs, and use that, we called it the response roadmap, to guide instruction and response to students. Our second goal then had to do with communication And we wanted to look at that survey data a little bit more closely and make sure that family clarity and communication also remained high as we were planning and responding to student needs. And so today, in regards to that area, we do have now 100% of teacher teams, every teacher team, meeting consistently in PLCs every week, which we've talked about before. We have that response roadmap, which is used by all teacher teams to guide their planning and their responding. Our teachers are all using shared pacing and calendars to make sure that we have equitable outcomes at the end of a course or grade level. Our rubrics are sent home, and we have a couple of schools, SSI and TMS, who changed their communication practices to send weekly newsletters to communicate learning to families. In addition, we looked at our 3 years of staff and family survey data, looked at a couple questions that were specific to clarity around learning. So our staff survey, you can see some gains as it relates to knowing that students in the same course or grade level will have a similar experience with content and a similar experience with assessments. Family survey shows that we do have high strongly agree, and yet still some room for growth when we look at 3-year trends. Describing my child's academic strengths, describing my child's academic areas of growth based on teacher communication.
This next little piece of data, we're going to say read with caution, because we have gotten better at keeping track of both our social, emotional, behavioral intervention data and our academic data. So when we look at the total number of interventions delivered that were tier 3 in 23-24, it was 41% of all interventions were a tier 3 intervention. By 25-26, it's 13%. However, you can see the total number of kids. We have a whole lot more kids receiving intervention because of the way we've changed our tier 2 intervention process to be based on tier 1 unit assessment results. So look at that data with caution in that case. Tier 2 academic, we went from 41% to 66%. We wanted that because we want to catch kids in tier 1 and tier 2 before having to get to that tier 3 portion. Hopefully we catch them sooner. We were not tracking any students with enrichment and extension groups. This year we have 10% noted in our next path system. 100% meeting PLCs weekly. We had to throw that in there because we thought that was pretty cool. But now they're meeting every week. This bottom statistic we also think is important to note. We've gone from 13.4 FTE in intervention for tier 3 to 8.88. So we've had a 33% drop in FTE because of the stuff we're doing at tier 1 and tier 2. We think that's making a difference. This is mine, sorry. Academic achievement data, we want to connect to that as well because that was part of our metrics. So for math, and you guys have seen a lot of this already, and the 3 board members saw it really closely this morning along with a bunch of other data, but we are seeing increases in math instruction. We can only compare the last 2 years because that's when PET scores change, so we don't have 4 years of data, but we can see that we are making improvements and some growth, a slight decline in the ACT score.
For ELA, similarly, forward exam, slight decrease from just 2023 to 2024, 2025, and then a larger increase in ELA for our ACT score. For science and social studies, we've seen the largest gains. Those are a little smaller because they're both on one slide, but science is really notable. Our pre-ACT score has increased 6.5 points just from our 2022-2023 school year. And then social studies, we can go all the way back to 21-22 to compare. And that has increased about 7 points over the course of 4 years. And in addition to that, we still remain at the top of the county in relation to forward scores for ELA, math, science, and social studies. So there's increases and a lot of growth, and we are still high at the top of the county in these areas as it comes to forward scores.
We've shared growth data as well before, but that's one that we really look at closely because we know that's how we can compare it to how other districts are doing. Are we closing gaps for students at a faster rate than other districts or across the state? We're really proud of that bottom one that we have moved up 113 spots in 4 years' time in terms of state ranking for growth. We also have our learning assessment rubric that we've had since the beginning of strategic planning. And we said, when we look at teacher clarity, student clarity, and family clarity, as we're beginning to wrap up this strategic plan cycle, we're putting our stars at mastering for teacher clarity and student clarity, not all the way to the right, we still have work to do. And then for family clarity, based on that feedback, we probably are be accelerating, but not quite to mastering yet. Any questions we're directing to our principals who are here tonight because they're the ones that are in the buildings and have been a huge part of this process with us.
Any questions from the board? This is an update. We don't need to vote on it.
I just have one with I understand overall why we're just serving 5th through 12th grade. Have we thought, is there any way in parts of it that we could do 4th grade or 3rd and 4th grade and get some feedback? I know it would have to have a lot of thought because it would be a different approach.
I'm sure we could do some of the written feedback. We do feedback, gather feedback from our 4K through 4th grade. When we're in the classroom doing those walkthroughs, we are actually asking the kids in a one-on-one interview, what are you learning? What would you do if you didn't understand it? And we're recording that data as part of our walkthroughs. So we do have those
So you do have
initial
some
pieces. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And just to piggyback off that, those are actually the same questions we ask at 5 through 12. So those kids are getting the same questions when we do those walkthroughs and talk to the kids to really ask them, what are you learning? What do you do if you get stuck? Literally the same questions.
Okay, thank you.
The answers are sometimes hilarious.
Yeah. A second.
Can you go back to the intervention numbers, the TYOY ones? And help me if I'm thinking about this wrong. So just looking at the sheer volume in tier 2, we have 1,200 students in tier 2 academic intervention. But we have
received one. Yep.
but we have decreased our FTE on interventionists because they're in timber time. Well, I can't think of the right.
Yep. Sore time to return.
Help. I worry always that we're putting so much on teachers.
Mhm.
Like, what is the implication there? Because I understand the structure, but are you all worried about that? Is our staff speaking up about that? I believe that I'm going to speak for them and say they enjoy it, right? Like, I think that they like trading classes, but as we load the camels back, that 1,200 number is a little bit scary from this side of the table.
There's two ways to look at it. One of those ways is a lot of them were already doing this in some way, shape, or form, just individually. So now they're planning with a team and sharing it across a team. Is there newness to it? Yes. I would think just from like a resource standpoint, which naturally has occurred with our shifts to the integrated social studies and ELA, 3rd, 4th, but also the math shift. Of course, like we're re-looking at the resources, but I think where the value is there is, and it's work, it's time. So you're seeing that in our PLT planning. It's not easy, but the teachers are the ones who have assessed. They've taught the resource, so they know where that misunderstanding is. So they know that little pinpointed area to target. Whereas when I don't want to say farming that out, when you're using other individuals, those other individuals are kind of capped at what they're able to quickly gather, either in a conversation or they're capped by the resource that they're using. Whereas our teachers, yes, it's taking the time to create that resource, it's taking the time to plan as a team, but it's that much more individualized and tailored to the kids' needs, and it's not taking a tier 3 canned intervention and just saying, we're going to make this work for you because you showed you struggled. So yeah, I don't think anybody's going to say it's been really easy work. I think it's the value of the work.
And for argument's sake, catching them in tier 2 is much more efficient than tier 3. Yeah. That number is a little bit scary for anybody watching, right? Like, just wanted to ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to piggyback on what Mr. Duffy said because I was just up at Landon observing some MTS and the teachers are not only know the students, but they each unit that they do decide their approach. Like one unit, they might say, okay, you're going to take this strategy or skill, and I'm going to do this one. In one unit, when I was up there, they had decided each teacher would cover their own kids because of the numbers of specific things that they needed. So they are really each time thinking through what is the best plan for this unit. So
one thing too that I think is important is these are quick interventions 2 times a week over 3 weeks after a unit. So when we talk to like elementary teachers, for example, you have 5 ELA units in the year. That's 5 times throughout the year that you're planning this quick 3-week check-in with students twice a week. And that immediately helps teachers feel more calm, like, oh, this isn't ongoing constantly all the time. And because kids are seeing, especially at the upper levels, and maybe Don, you can talk to that, my grade changes as a result of being in a tier 2 intervention. I think that makes a difference too.
Yeah, I mean, the place where I would chime in here is actually twofold. I think when we all went to school, model was I teach, you learn, and then we assess and move on. And that has evolved, which is why it's not too surprising that as we do this MTSS work, that number is initially going to have a jump. I do see it coming back down over time because I believe, especially at the 9-12 level where our kids are more independent, our best opportunity for intervention is at tier 1. But that does take a whole other, like, you have to rethink how you use your class time with kids. And we're making progress in that, especially around having like certain things that are expectations in all classrooms that are good practice. But that's a shift for some, especially if you've been teaching a certain way for 10, 20, 30 years. But I do expect that number to come down over time because we'll be able to catch kids at tier 1 before they get to tier 2.
Okay.
But it'll take time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if I look at tier 2 intervention, academic intervention is like the other side of the bell-shaped curve to the enrichment extension. Are we shortchanging the enrichment extension kids? You knew this was coming, didn't you?
It's our newest goal this year. Yes.
From a tracking standpoint, we were that number's very low, just primarily because we hadn't been entering those formally. We're now tracking those formally. I think it's been a goal across all of our buildings this year to plan for that. So we have 100% of our PLTs are now planning for enrichment and extension. So that's great. I think quantifying it was just the data entry has been a lot to figure out. So quantifying, putting that in just took us time. So we're catching that system up.
Yeah, and I would just add, like, informally, outside of our MTSS work, we're trying to find ways for those extension enrichment kids. Mr. Castillo, he actually stayed a little bit longer today after our heart meeting, and we did some walkthroughs. And he happened to be there during advisement. We're doing ACT prep right now. We've doubled the number of our students who are in the target group, who would be more of that tier 2 intervention piece, even though it's a non-classroom intervention. But we also offer a session for kids who just want additional practice going into the ACT. He got to see 3 rooms, very different feels to the room because some of the kids probably would rather not be there. And other kids chose to be there because they're looking at it as an enrichment opportunity. So even outside of our TSS work, we really do look for those opportunities. Another one I would highlight is what we shared earlier with summer school, hearing that parent feedback, adding that extra class to the high school offerings for the enrichment, because it's something that was desired by the community. So always looking for ways to do it, even though it can be more challenging, honestly, because it's just a different kind of kid and a different need that they have that is not always easy to approach. So looking for ways.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much. That was very informative and helpful. Next up, approval of managed print services provider. Ms. Holland, this is a topic that we're always
Okay, so managed print services. This would be for copiers and printers throughout the entire district. What we're proposing is that we move from 3 vendors to 1 vendor. For multiple reasons. It would give us an opportunity to have better service rather than calling 3 different vendors with different return times. It would also streamline or be consistent for pricing. Right now we have all different print per page charges. So this would be a huge improvement for the district as well. With this move, we would save approximately just over $8,000 in maintenance and supplies
per year. The ease of use for staff, so each device would look the same. They would be similar model machines, but there would be a software that's put onto the machines that is called PaperCut. So no matter where I am in a building or if I go to another building, it would always look the same. There would also be, see this is where I did rhyme, a single sign-on integration, which means that I can go up and use my badge to release my documents versus having documents sit on a copier that may not be claimed. Some of the things that IT also noted in the status update, he thought it would be a better match for their network and security, which is obviously very important throughout the district. The model consolidation, because right now we have multiple different devices, makes and models per building and throughout the district. There is a lower click rate, so 2 race, 1 for color, 1 for black and white instead of multiple. And then also feedback we heard from other districts that are using these devices. The district is proposing that we buy the machines. We have done that traditionally anyway, but this would be buying 39 devices at one time. So that cost would be about $218,000. There was a lease option, but that obviously comes with an additional cost. So if we did do the lease option for a 5-year lease, it would be about $260,000. So we are recommending that we purchase the devices and save the district just over $40,000 over that 5-year time. Are there any questions?
I have a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve Gordon Fletch Company for Hamilton School District's managed print services as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made, and seconded. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a couple. From going from 3 companies to 1 company, is there anything that we can no longer do in-house as far as printing, or does this company offer everything that we would need?
It does offer everything that we need. I'm not sure why the district had multiple vendors in the past, but this should make service calls and things a lot easier and maintaining those machines as well.
Okay, awesome. And then when we're looking at like buying versus leasing, is there the same type of repairs that are available with both? Or like sometimes if you lease, they offer better service plan. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So with the vendor that we're recommending, it's Gordon Fletch. They work in many different districts, and the service would be the same if we lease or we're owning. So everything would be identical, and there would be no change between the two.
Okay, sounds good. And why? I'm assuming you didn't like an RFP system or process. Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Anyone else?
To piggyback off Ashley, what is the average life of our printers? Is it more? It must be more than 5 years if you're recommending to buy.
Yes. So at this time, devices have actually aged out. If Ryan was here, he has a beautiful spreadsheet with all the red that the devices are older and they don't have the security things that we need. So with moving to all the devices on the same age, typically it should be 5 or 6. We're saying 5 is the worst case scenario. We can obviously extend it. Something else Gordon Fletch would do is that if a machine, say in the high school, is getting a lot of use, but maybe at Woodside, it's not, they'll swap that for us at no charge, just to kind of spread out and make those machines more or last longer.
Okay. And you have the money for that?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm sure you looked at this, but I have to ask, so is there any way to cut down on the number of machines? I forgot how many you mentioned they were buying, but
This
could we go with 1 machine per school?
I don't know if teachers would like that. But we are reducing devices overall. I know Ryan's not here, but I do have to give a shout out to Ryan and Keith from the IT team. They actually walked every building with the vendors and were able to identify devices that they thought could come out of those buildings and what devices would work best. So we were able to reduce that footprint, which is also potentially a cost savings in the future.
That's what I want to hear. Thanks. Anyone else?
Oh, I have one thing. I have used the Follow Me Printing. It can be a pain in the butt. Do they call Ryan or do they call this company when staff is having a problem?
either. So Gordon Flesh will actually come through. I should mention this. They would come through it when teachers come back and do a training, but they also have videos. You can go online, you can use your phone because there'll be QR codes on the machine. And the machines themselves will walk you through, like if there's a jam or some other things. So there's multiple ways to get assistance.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. We did make a motion, correct?
Yes.
Sometimes the discussions get long and I forget. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Rubik. Approval to participate in CISA Alternative Schools 26-27.
Last one for tonight. I believe this should be a short one. This is an annual request from the district to the board to allow us to contract with CISA One if needed for certain programs. Those programs are mainly for either special education or credit attainment. There's a number of different programs that are offered. We don't use all of them. You can see by my report that some of the programs we've actually had students this year in, some we have not. We are just seeking approval from you so that if we do need to contract with them at some point next year, you've already had a chance to, give us that approval. So that's what we're seeking from you tonight.
May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve participation in CISA #1 alternative schools for 2026-27 as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions?
Yes, I do have one. A lot of some of these programs, we have to reserve X number of seats. If we end up not using them, do we still pay for them, or how does that work?
Not all of them we need to reserve. There are some that we are able to get to as needed.
Okay.
For those that we think it's wise to reserve those seats, we do need to use those seats, and we have used them.
Most of the time we have used them.
In fact, usually we're in a situation where actually possibly looking to buy another seat during the course of the year because we didn't at the start of the year. Things come up with students, whether it be through students who are not successful with credits, or we have special education students that their progress is changed during the course of the year. So we're often confronted with actually trying to get additional seats versus in danger of losing seats.
When we do need to get an additional seat, are we usually able to be successful in that endeavor?
I would say most of the time, but I can't say that it comes with a guarantee for sure. There are times in the year where those programs are pretty full, and we find ourselves having to look for maybe a different program to the one we think is best for that student. But it varies because students come in all of these programs.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of different programs here. If we have a seat that we aren't using and another district needs a seat, is that how we pick up seats? So like we would buy it from somebody else that hasn't used theirs, or?
No, we wouldn't be buying it from anyone else. We'd be going directly through CISA. But CISA would be able to kind of keep track of that.
Okay.
But we wouldn't go to Cedarburg and say, hey, do you have any extra seats that we can purchase from you? They would have a better feel of that during the course of the year, whether they can take additional students from a district or not.
Okay.
So does CISA sell seats twice then?
I don't know if they sell seats twice. I don't
We can't buy
think so.
Because I want to understand this better. Do we pay for everything up front regardless of whether we use it?
There are certain programs where we do pay for seats up front because we want to ensure ourselves that we're going to get those seats.
But others
there are others that we do not.
We just pay.
Distinguished Scholars is a program, for instance, for students who are more cognitively challenged. And so they are one of the only programs that is around where a district like us, if we couldn't service that student here, we would look at them. But we don't pre-purchase a seat there.
because it's not as frequently used. A couple of these programs we know from past, trend data with students and the programs that we're going to need to have students. So usually through Mr. Peterson's department, he is making sure that we have a certain number of seats available to us.
So it's kind of a mix.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, review of Hamilton School District School Violence Event Response Drills. The school board received and reviewed the written drill evaluations submitted by principals of Hamilton School District under section 118.074 CP of the state statutes. This is an informational item, no action is necessary. So I have those, I'll be reviewing those, signing them. If anyone else would like to see them, let me know.
Is that different than the ones we have in here?
Maybe.
Okay.
No. Any other comments on that? Next, we have first reading and review of revised board policies, petty cash accounts, and guidelines for petty cash accounts. These will come up for final review and approval at the next meeting. Any questions right now?
Just a note, those are being asked to be retired because in December we approved 664 handling money in district building activities. So it's duplicate, so we don't need these items because they're covered at 664.
Okay. Any other questions on that topic? Next, may I have a motion to adjourn open meeting, move to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.851C, for purposes of discussing United Lakewood Educators Hamilton compensation negotiation strategy and Wisconsin State Statutes 19.851C, for the purpose of discussing compensation for confidential support staff, administrative assistants, custodians, educational support staff, food service personnel, administrators, and superintendent.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, roll call vote.
Mr. Lotzinski,
Aye.
Miss Van Acton,
Yes.
Miss Schaffner,
Yes.
Miss Straglow,
Yes.
Mr. Castillo,
Yes.
Miss Zimmer,
Yes.
Yes, we are now adjourned and take a 5-minute break.